We're very fortunate in the Rogue Valley, since we've been doing this show for almost 6 years, is the professional organizations that exist within the real estate industry. And these were groups, when you hear about the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, the home builders, things like groups like that. And you don't really have much of association with them until you get in the business. And once you get in the business, you realize what great leadership and what terrific organizations the professional organizations are that we have in the Rogue Valley. And that's really the truth. Well, one of them is with us today, and that's some people from the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We've got a whole group with us today. We're going to lead off with Colin Mullane, who's been on our show before. And Colin is now, last time he was here, you hadn't quite ascended to the presidency of the Oregon Association of Realtors, but you're there now. How's that going? And welcome to the show.
Thanks, Pete. Good to be back. So far, so good. It's been a really busy January. Of course, we're never prepared when we get started, but it feels like, and then before you know it, you're a month, you're 2 months, you're 3 months into it, and away we go.
And the way the weather is, it's like it's even further out into the new year, isn't it?
My garden has no clue what's going on right now. It thinks it should be in January, but it's not.
Boy, no one does. Anyway, so it's good to have you here. And just to bring people, the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors and the Southern Oregon Multiple Listing Service, SOMLS, those two acronyms are really synonymous, aren't they? But they're different. Was that what we're talking about today?
Yeah, I think a little bit. The Rogue Valley Association of Realtors owns the Southern Oregon Multiple Listing Service. It's a realtor-owned MLS. And so they're two wholly owned subsidiaries that function very differently with its own board of directors and a very different function and a role depending on which one you're looking at. Both very, very sophisticated given the size that we are, just about 1,000 members on each one, and competing very well against other larger associations and MLSs in terms of the technologies that we provide, the customer service that we provide. We are very often on the leading edge of things as they come up in our industry.
And they do lots of different things in the community, and on it goes, as which we expect of these professional organizations. And we're going to hear more about that story here after this first break. Real Estate Show here on KMED. This show repeats at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. And all of our shows are available at youtube.com/Real Estate Show Oregon. Next week, the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District will be along. We'll update you on those classes coming up, managing everything from grass to manure to you name it. That's next week, and we're coming right back after this. Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED AM and FM this weekend of January 31st and February 1st. Pete Belcastro here with you. We get together with you every weekend right here on KMED to talk about issues facing real estate in Jackson and Josephine County, around the state of Oregon as well. And each week, we get some great guests to bring you a different perspective of this amazing industry that exists around us, that is when you put it all together with home building and all the auxiliary services, it is a big force in the economy of our two counties, that's for sure. And overseeing all that is the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, and they're with us here in our studio today. We've been talking with Colin Mullane, who's the current president of the Oregon Association of Realtors. You were actually, what did you do? Were you one of these other presidents before you ascended to the higher rankings? Isn't that true?
Well, yeah, you could say that. I was president of the Southern Oregon Multiple Listing Services in 2010 or 11. I'm not 10.
Okay.
And so a slightly different job than association leadership, but I did function on the board of directors for the Association of Realtors at the same time. So definitely had to do some work to be familiar with the position and know what I was doing.
Took a lot of years. You learned a lot, didn't you, though, all the way through this? It helps your business and everything.
There's no doubt about
as well.
it. There's time away from your business for sure, but there's a balance that can be struck, and there's no doubt that our clients benefit from leadership roles with the experience that we garner and gain from people that just have lots of experience in the business. So absolutely, there's a win-win there. Well,
next to Colin today is Patrick Eiler, who actually is one of those big mucks, presidents, because Patrick is the president of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, and that's you own your own principal broker as well.
I am.
Yeah. So Patrick, first of all, welcome to the show. How did you get involved in real estate? How long have you been doing all this stuff?
Well, I've been licensed since 1991. I was licensed in Washington, began there in Olympia, Washington.
Okay.
And worked there for a couple of years before I moved to Oregon. And back at that time, you could challenge the real estate test. Today, you have to go through the classes and do all that. I was able to challenge the test and pass it and get my Oregon real estate license. And then I became a broker in 1994.
Okay.
And I worked as an associate broker for different firms for a period of time until I moved to Southern Oregon. This was up in the Portland area. And when I moved to Southern Oregon, I associated with a local firm here, worked for them for a little while, and then I took a break and went to work for the federal government. Around the time of 9/11, I was looking for a way to serve. You know, that a lot of people were during that time joining the military and looking for opportunities to serve and see what they could do. And I was well beyond the military age at that point, but I still could do civil service. So I worked for the federal government for about 5 years. And that's all well and good, but working for the government is working for the government.
Yeah, it
and
is.
I kind of have that entrepreneurial spirit, and so I could only take that for so long. So about 5 years after that, I decided to open my own firm. And like we had talked about before, I did that in 2008, which some people might think that was not necessarily the best time to do it.
But you survived.
I struggled through it and kept the business going.
Good for you. I
and
love
very successful.
I love the entrepreneurial spirit, and certainly to be in real estate, you have to have that spirit, don't you? It's not a gimme thing. You have to go out and earn it every day, don't you?
Oh, you do. And like I was mentioning to somebody earlier, you're going on an interview every day.
Yeah.
So you're doing a job interview with every client that you meet, you know, that you're going to work for, because you have to sell your services and your ability to help them with their real estate needs, just like you would apply for a job anywhere else.
So, Patrick, was this your first experience in with the hierarchy of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, or how did you get involved with that in your world? Everybody's busy, you know.
Yeah, I was looking for opportunities to get more involved. A few years ago, I just felt like I needed to be a part of the organization, and more than just being a member, that I wanted to contribute.
Called give something back.
Exactly.
We like that, actually.
Yeah, and I ended up being persuaded by somebody who was very active in the association to get involved, and so I did. And boy, I was thrown right in. I ended up being.
It didn't take long to be president, did it?
Well, I did serve as an advisory director on the board of directors for the RVAR prior to. Yeah. You know, that was my really my first.
Right, you have to have some experience in there. The organization, learn about it, what it does.
Exactly, and then I was elected to the board the fall next year, and served the board in that capacity.
All right.
And then the opening came up for president, and
did you get elected to that? Right, you elect they're you're elected by the members.
Yes,
by the realtors in the valley. Well, good for you, and you're serving right now. So thank you for that. And also today is Paul Shoemaker who's with us, and Paul works for RVAR, I think, right? Is that I'm correct on that, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, works for them and is the communication and government liaison coordinator. I don't know what that. Anyway, I love titles. Anyway, so same thing. How in the world did you get here and do what you do?
Well, my family and I moved up here in 2011 from California.
California.
Yeah,
okay.
we're one of those families.
But there's a difference from California. Where in California? That's what I.
Well, Humboldt County. So the joke is we moved from Southern Oregon to Southern Oregon.
Humboldt County, Eureka is not really California the way we think of California. It's good. Well, you're here anyway. Go ahead.
The Jefferson state of mind. I think
that's right.
What it is. So I was a licensed broker for 2 years, and in that time I served on the political action committee for the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. So that was where I was first exposed to the association beyond just paying my dues and selling homes. And the opportunity came up to join the staff as the political affairs liaison. And I found an opportunity that was just as rewarding as selling real estate, if not more rewarding. So supporting those with the entrepreneurial spirit and those that want to build a business through political advocacy by being on staff with the association.
I think those are the kinds of jobs in organizations that are really neat, that you've got the government part of that job and the communication part and the outreach and all that I think are really neat jobs. So good luck. And how long have you been doing that now full time with them?
7 months. I started June of 2014.
Yeah, well, that's good. Good for you. I asked all three of you before we kind of started today. When you think about the Association of Realtors, at least that group, why is it important that y'all exist anymore? I mean, there's so many things that say, these things are all outdated. I mean, we go through this with all sorts of things. Why is it important that you're here? I mean, should we care?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. And the members care. It provides a structure, an organized structure that we communicate with each other through. It also is a very important guideline for how to do business as an entrepreneur in a respectful, ethical way, which is something that is not always prevalent in an entrepreneurial business mindset. So if you're looking at lots of other industries where you can do whatever, however you want to gain a customer and sell something, you're not always impressed by a code of ethics or a work ethic or honesty or integrity. And I think that the Association of Realtors provides a structure to where we provide all of our services. We allow our clients to decide whom they're most comfortable working with, and then have the backing of ethical, responsible realtor code of ethics that's there for those business tools, so that the client is actually protected. And if that's violated, there are actual penalties that are fairly significant within the association that can potentially put that person out of business. So we take that seriously. And in this day and age, the consumer really is aware of that, and they respond to it. And as a result, we can hold our heads high and know that we can walk down the street in our own community and actually make face contact and say hello to somebody. And that to me is important. There's a lot of jobs I couldn't do because I feel that the public is mistrustful of that particular business model. And I think that real estate agents and realtors in particular have done a really good job at holding themselves above and beyond.
How do I say it? Are all licensed realtors in Oregon a member of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors?
So all licensees. So the difference is there are about 18,000 licensees in the state of Oregon.
Okay.
And then there are about 14,000 realtors. So they're two very different things. The licensee is overseen by the state of Oregon, the real estate commissioner. Wholly separately from that then is membership with the Association of Realtors, which includes local, state, and national, which every realtor has to be a member of. So if you're a member of local,
do you think people should ask if they want to do business with a licensed broker? Okay, say call them licensed brokers. Should consumers ask them if they're members of the association? Because I say that because the home builders are trying to do that here in town. You know, licensed contractors versus, non-licensed contractors, members versus not. So should consumers, is that an advantage to consumers to ask that question if you're a member of this group because of the code of ethics, the things that you're talking about?
Well, certainly. There is a difference between just a licensee and somebody who can take on the name realtor. As a realtor, you adhere to a thing we call the code of ethics. And in doing that, you adhere to a set of principles and guidelines that help you be professional and do a really good job of serving your clients. And there's provisions in that to make sure that happens. So when you agree to become a realtor, you're also agreeing to be held by those standards and represent your industry.
But not everyone who is a licensed broker is a member and adheres, say, to that association rules, right?
That
association
is correct.
thing.
That's exactly
See, I think consumers need to know those things and ask these questions.
Well,
that's why wearing your pin, if you have a realtor pin, that says you're part of something else. And I think in the business, I think we need to do that more, be more visible of what we. Be more proud of what we're doing too. Anyway,
and that's one of our jobs as an association is to get that out there and to let the public know that difference and what we do to help represent them and the professionalism that we want to bring to the table for them.
And let me ask you this, you guys, because the people, again, listeners and listeners of our shows, we talk a lot about the SOMLS stats. All right, I mean, we share with them every month, both here on our TV shows. I love them. I mean, I love the changes that have been made to them for rural properties, things like that. We talk about on our shows, and those. But so, how does the public see what the SOMLS does, or can they, or what? Because that's a big part of what you do.
I think part of the answer to that goes back to your previous question. MLS members are all realtor members, so that's the first thing. If somebody has access to the multiple listing service, they're already a realtor member. And one of the other important pieces that really is important to a consumer above and beyond the ethical piece that we've obviously spoken about is access to tools that, quite frankly, not a lot of non-realtor members have. And the SOMLS and MLSs in general are a huge tool. There's lots of other tools like Realtors Property Resource that gives very robust property information that's just not accessible to the public all in one place like we have access to. The other piece piece, of course, is that we advocate for the real estate consumer at a level, the governmental level, which Paul will probably go into shortly, which goes above and beyond what we do in our daily lives in buying and selling real estate. But we're actually out there working with legislators very, very hard and ensuring that legislation that's being worked on isn't harmful to real property owners in the state of Oregon and, quite frankly, around the country. We're very active. We're one of the most active and successful bipartisan political groups in D.C. and in Salem.
No, I think the Realtors lobby is probably up next to the NRA is probably number 2, don't you think? I mean, it's a powerful group.
We're one of the most respected groups. And again, bipartisan being the real key. We actually invest our PAC dollars almost 50-50 between the two main parties. We're very well respected across the aisle, both, as I said, at the state level and the federal level. And the impact that we have on housing matters is significant because a lot of times legislators are empowered to make decisions, and if they don't have the facts, both based on what the impact will be in the market as well as to their constituents, our consumers, it can be an uninformed decision. Our job is to ensure that they're fully aware of those facts and make a smart decision when they're making it.
Smart decision from government. That's good, Colin, because we know how good they are at doing that around the state of Oregon and in Congress. So people have asked me this question, and I don't know how to answer this. When you know how you have Zillows out there, and you've got Zillow and give me some more of the type of whatever those
Trulia, Realtor.com,
all those. Does the information originally come from the SOMLS information that is good in, or where do people always say, where do we get this information because it's not accurate, it's not this? Where would they get the most accurate information that's provided by the SOMLS? Because that's where the information is.
There's 2 places. If you haven't yet engaged a realtor to work with yourself, Realtor.com is without a doubt the most accurate database. It receives a direct feed from the multiple listing service and multiple listing services across the country. No other database has access at that clear of a level. So that's the first answer.
So our stuff here, right?
Yes.
So you're saying this to make sure. So our stuff here, Realtor.com, by the way, is the largest realtor, I believe, portal in the world.
Yes.
I think it is. So our stuff automatically goes into there. So that's be a good place to go, right?
That's a good place to go. And then the next best place to go is once you've engaged your realtor, you will have access automatically to brand new listings based on your search criteria. So that realtor will provide feeds to you above and beyond anything Realtor.com can do and give you that competitive edge. And I think, as we'll probably talk about later, the market is really hot right now in Southern Oregon. And the difference between whether you get that information tomorrow from Zillow or today from your realtor is the difference between whether you're going to be successful or not in your purchase.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really true. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
Well, that's exactly right. The better your tools are, the more effective you're going to be in getting that.
I find the stats that you put together, I don't know how much how they're done or how they're collected, but they truly are a great resource, certainly for agents and for buyers and sellers. I mean, the information is right up to date. And I've seen stuff come in Zillows and these other things 2 weeks is still not correct, so don't be misled, right? I mean, we want our consumers to be smart, and the SOMLS provides that through Realtor.com as well and through your own website, right? Correct?
Yep.
See, look at that. Problem solved. I mean, that's where you want to go to look for properties. We're with the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors here on the Real Estate Show this weekend here on KMED AM and FM. The show repeats at 9 o'clock Sunday morning, and we are coming right back after this. Real Estate Show continues here on KMED AM and FM this weekend, January 31st and February 1st. Pete Belcastro here, and thanks for being with us here on the Real Estate Show, making it part of your weekend. We love talking about real estate issues and all the things going around this business. And yes, the market is pretty good, isn't it? It was really weird, though, the other day in the Ashland MLS meeting, so SOMLS meeting, it was one of those strange weeks where there were no new listings. Usually people list no new listings and only 3 or 4 on the tour. I mean, that is really slow. I mean, that kind of thing. But yet the offices seem to be, there's a lot of offers coming in. I mean, there's lots of activity going on despite those kind of things in this crazy market.
Well, there are listings coming in. I've talked to several brokers over this last week or two, and the listings are coming in, and they're very busy working with buyers. So there's a lot of people out there right now looking to buy and sell real estate. So
there really is. Market. Absolutely. And the people who've been on our shows for the last umpteen months now have been have been saying and pointing to 2015 was going to be a very good year, and I was always the pessimistic one of the group, but I've changed my tune. I think it's going to be a good year because all these indicators. The only thing that concerns me, and you guys can comment, the only thing that really concerns me is that we're having double-digit increases in value. And that in our county in certain places is what kind of caused a lot of the problem before. So I hope it doesn't continue the double-digit rise.
Well, that's happening in certain segments of the market.
Yeah.
In the price ranges 150 and below, you're seeing a little bit of prices going up because you have such demand for that market.
It's pretty interesting.
When you get up there in the upper price ranges, then it starts to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, it does there. We're with the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors here on the Real Estate Show this week, and Colin Mullane, who's the president of the Oregon Association of Realtors, and he was a past president of the SOMLS. Patrick Eiler is the current president of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors from Patrick Eiler Real Estate. And Paul Shoemaker is the communication and government liaison person for RVAR. Now, the Oregon legislature convened, about a week, well, I guess 2-3 weeks ago now. I mean, we're at the end of the month. And every time they go into session, it just scares the hell out of me. It really does, because you never know what in the world you're going to get or what's going to come out of there. All right, so Paul, 3 weeks into the thing, what are we hearing about attempts to change what this real estate business is about? You hear anything?
Well, Pete, I usually follow what's going on the local level. So maybe Colin, who sits in on some of the state level stuff. But I know there were 50-plus tax bills, and invariably when there's that many hands out looking for more money, it's going to affect property ownership and consequently realtors and home ownership. So it is something we want to keep an eye on. And one of the neat things about the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, we're really the local level of a 3-level system. And there's a really solid state level of representation and a national level at the National Association level. So at all 3 levels, there are people who interact on a regular basis with the government to lobby on the behalf of home owners. And when I say that, they're out there protecting private property rights. They're not lobbyists specifically for realtors. They're lobbyists on behalf of realtors, because by protecting home ownership and ensuring affordable, attainable housing by the private sector, it allows realtors to do their business, which is to buy and sell homes.
Mm-hmm.
So when people talk about, the this brothers or that guy that owns that big corporation, they influence politics, the general public can feel really good about the fact that they're represented at 3 levels, almost the grassroots levels, by an organization that's really looking out for them. Because at the end of the day, Pete, if brokers or realtors cannot sell homes or help people buy homes, they're just not going to make any money. So that's really what we're there for.
Yeah. Or the red tape becomes so much it just discourages you from even participating with it because of that. Well, that's always interesting. So you're in the local level, Paul. Is that where you're kind of hanging out in the thing? Anything happening locally that is of interest that our listeners might want to know?
There are a few things. I'd like to lead off with really a positive thing. The city of Ashland, well, let me take a step back. It's not too often you can go, wow, the government's doing something that makes sense.
You said the city of Ashland.
Let alone in Ashland, right?
Okay, you're ready. What?
So they're looking at revising some wildfire zones for the city. And what they're trying to do is basically make the whole city of Ashland a wildfire zone for how people handle their vegetation for screening their property, that sort of stuff. And it's real common sense stuff. And what they're doing is they're actually making it easier for people to remove problem trees and for people to do what's necessary to make their homes fire wise. So in an environment where everyone wants to find a reason not to like the government, it's very encouraging to see Ashland make some common sense efforts that aren't overstepping to help homeowners protect their homes, because there are some rules in place in Ashland that make it very difficult to even cut down a tree if you need to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So they want to go through and they're trying to revise that. So that's a really positive thing that's going on in local government.
And since the city is in pretty much a fire zone, that probably makes a lot of sense to do things like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good one.
Fire likes to burn uphill, and there's a lot of uphill in Ashland.
There is that. Anything else?
Well, on the flip side of that, sort of the dark underbelly of government, there's a local issue that we're keeping an eye on, and that's mandatory sprinklers in
mandatory
homes,
sprinklers in homes. Yes,
it rears its ugly head every now and then. And you know what it really comes down to is being onerous to the homeowner or the builder, making it less affordable for people to buy homes or have homes built. And it's just another example where there's already a lot of legislation or rules in place to protect people. And so that's one of the things we're keeping an eye on.
You're talking about a city of Medford proposal there to do that in homes. And when Brad Bennington was in here, the home builders, we were saying, new construction is so good today with such great materials that those homes don't need to have sprinklers. It's the older homes is where you're having the problems that are burning, not necessarily new construction, especially with all the new materials and things that are in there.
Right.
You're right. I'd add thousands of dollars to a price of a property, and you're right. That's not going to go anywhere because the Medford City Council's smarter than that, I would hope. Anyway, we'll see. You never know. Anything else? Is that it?
Well, another function we have at the association, we do fundraising, and we do have a local political action committee. So we like to facilitate candidates that are going to look out for home ownership and property rights. So that's one of the ways we participate in the community, is helping to guide people that would benefit private property rights and home ownership into office.
And of our legislators, here, who are the champions for that? Is there somebody better than that? Are they together with this? Do you have to? Does Peter Buckley think differently than somebody else? Does Senator Bates think differently? I mean, how do our guys and girls do?
Well,
I love that question. That's a good question. I don't know how to answer that.
I think locally, one of the champions for property rights and the rights of people to own and enjoy real estate is Sal Escobar.
Mm-hmm. Sal's been really good. Yeah, and he's an ex-broker too. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. But on different levels, he's also working for us as members of the community. But that's one of the people that I know and have seen. He fights pretty hard up there. To watch.
Well, he has great stories to tell. About what legislators, when they get some of these bills, they come to him and ask him some of these the questions they ask are just really something. As you can imagine that. Well, that's always good. Okay.
Yeah, and it's Dennis Richardson, of course,
and Dennis was,
he was actually a very good supporter
but it
helped
changes,
us a lot.
Doesn't it? I mean, they don't stay in there very long. I mean, Dennis Richardson's not there anymore.
That's true.
So it's got to be replaced by somebody else.
One of the things that we do, as Paul was mentioning, as an organization, is we will support candidates and legislators who are looking out for property rights for our consumers.
Do you support local candidates like commissioners, things like
certainly.
that? So you do the whole thing.
We do. And one of a good example of a local champion that we're really happy to see what he's doing is Doug Breidenthal. And even though he's only 2 years in, he is the most seasoned county commissioner now.
Yes, he is.
And so he's got a good head on his shoulders when it comes to a lot of those issues. He's really involved nationally, on the national level, with some county government organizations. It's really he's bringing a lot to the table about property ownership, property rights.
But it's really all about property rights and property ownership, isn't it? I mean, that seems to me like that's the holy grail, isn't it? To protect those kinds of things for consumers in this country from onslaughts from legislators, which are our own worst enemies sometimes. Anyway, it's the Real Estate Show here on KMED this weekend. Pete Belcastro here. This show repeats Sunday at 9 o'clock here on KMED, and all of our shows are available at realestateshoworegon.com. We are coming right back after this. The Real Estate Show continues here on KMED, January 31st and February 1st of 2015. Pete Belcastro here, KMED AM and FM. We're talking with the Rogue Valley Association of Realtor people with Colin Mullane, who's the president of the Oregon Association of Realtors, and a realtor here with Full Circle in Ashland, and a good guy as well, good realtor. Patrick Eiler, who's the current president of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors from Patrick Eiler Real Estate. And nice to have Patrick here getting his insight, along with Paul Shoemaker, who's the RVAR communication and government liaison person, I guess, is what we call him. But thanks to all you being here. Well, our last segment, goes so fast. Colin, I want to just give you a question. With the legislature in Salem, what right now, as they start off, what are the things that you guys are all looking at and watching that our listeners need to know about that could possibly, materialize something bad?
Well,
and I say something bad there. I don't necessarily mean that, but bad.
We're not tracking the good ones.
Yeah, no, the good bill, yeah.
Basically, we have got a committee that meets every 2 weeks, and we spend 4 to 5 hours at each of those meetings physically in Salem. And they're just volunteer realtors as well, and we monitor the bills that are coming and being written. There are several that we're following right now, and this is the same every session.
Yeah.
And we watch how they move through committee and if they come out of committee. And then even after that, you've got to make sure that as maybe it gets defeated in committee, but it's very often tacked onto another bill as part of an amendment. So we never get to sleep and kind of just rest assured that something has gone past. And there's a lot of stuff that there's been talked about. Everything's on the table this year. We knew it was going to be like that. And it's the same at the federal level. A lot of discussion on tax reform, which I think most people at the broadest sense are fairly much in favor of. But like everybody, we're protective of the pieces that we find that could be damaging to our industry and to the population as a whole. Just to hit on some highlights without going into too much detail, one of the big pieces that's being discussed once again very seriously is limiting and capping mortgage interest deduction, which, believe it or not, is the longest standing tax exemption in the country.
Really?
It was the first one
that.
written into the tax code. So when you own a home and you're paying interest to your mortgage person, and that interest is tax deductible. It's been one of the incentive factors for people moving from being renters to homeowners. The statistics, of course, support that typically neighborhoods with home ownership tend to have higher graduation rates, lower crime rates, things like that. So it's established that home ownership tends to be better for society as a whole. So to take away a tool that moves people from being renters into home ownership, if that's a choice that they make, and diminish that, could have a huge impact on society as a whole, not just financially, but overall. That's one. Okay. 1031 exchanges going away could be a big deal, and that's
going
where
away. Going away
or severally limiting the capability of it. I mean, that's a like for like exchange. If you've got a property, you want to sell it, you want to protect the profit on that sale and roll it into the next investment. You're able to do that, and ultimately the tax get paid on the last sale, but you have the ability to allow that money to grow and unencumbered, uninterfered from by the government under the current program, and that's also been a very long-standing tax exemption. And another one for Oregonians to really be careful of, and I really mean this sincerely, is if we're looking at moving our property tax assessment model from what it currently stands at to one that resets the tax value at the point of sale. That's very firmly in a lot of mindset.
Because right now the assessed values are lower, right?
Well,
generally.
We don't have enough time to go into it specifically.
We're going to run out of time, I know.
It's a little more complicated than that. Because of a measure that had passed a few years ago, they're limited in the amount that they can assess a property.
It would be scary, wouldn't it? Though? I mean, the bad part is that if you sell your house, the new buyer, right, the property tax is X today, it's going to go to Y, which is going to be higher tomorrow after you buy it, right? It's going to reset at the new price.
It can severely limit the ability of a buyer to make a purchase based on the projected increase they would face with a tax. But over and above that, if you don't just look at the homeowner, which we can directly say is impacted by that, you look at that as a governmental model. You look at the cities that went bankrupt in California where this model currently exists. And if and when another downturn in the market comes and you get any city government, local government, state government that's dependent on that income and values drop 40% over 3 years like we saw happen in the last crisis, you see cities go out of business.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a viable model for a consistent form of income.
Well, keep an eye on that one, would you, there in Salem? And don't let that happen, because
that would
really be a bad.
That's actually a constitutional amendment that they're.
So voters have to at least have a say in that kind of a thing. All right. Well, before we get out of time, Tina Grimes is the executive officer of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, SOMLS. She has been patiently listening to the three of you, or the four of us, I'll include myself in that one there. And Tina, first of all, welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Were they pretty good? Were they accurate with what did they give a good portrayal today of what's going on really in
Absolutely.
our bar?
Absolutely. Very well spoken.
Yeah. And how's it is to work with them? That's what I want to know. They okay?
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you in the world get to where you are? Because you like run the whole show, right? I mean, you're like the grand poobah, I guess, of the world there, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's the illusion of control.
Yeah. But you run it's a big organization.
It is.
I mean, it is.
It is. I was hired as the bookkeeper actually 14 years ago.
Really?
And then 4 years ago moved up through the ranks, and 4 years ago became the executive officer, and haven't looked back. I'm loving it.
Yeah, 14 years. That's a lot of ghosts in the closet that you probably could find the day
A few.
in any organization like that.
I even have pictures of some.
Well, that's a great. I'd like to see some of those. Actually, that's a great story, though. A personal story of starting and working your way up the ladder, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not anything I ever dreamed about. I mean, I honestly, I mean, how you don't hear little kids go, when I grew up, I want to be an association executive.
Right.
Mainly because it's this kind of hidden corner of the world that most people don't realize is there. And yet it's a huge, huge industry, trade associations in general. And I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else now.
Yeah, it gets in your blood. And I know one of the things that you're really working on is education for realtors, right? I mean, I know
Yes.
that's a big thing, and you guys are really into that, making a push for that.
We have spent the past couple of years really amping up our education program. And in fact, in 2014, we offered almost 100 hours of continuing education to our members that was included in their annual dues payment, so it didn't cost them anything extra. And realtors, state law only requires them to have basically 15 hours a year, 30 hours every 2 years. So we offered more than triple what they have to have just in a 1 year period.
And it's really good to do that. I know the Jackson Soil Water Conservation District, one of our partners of our show, is now connected with RVAR and offering some classes in our rural areas that we've talked about so much doing. And the home builders even doing the same thing. And even Sharon Johnson, who's having her, the Aging in Place seminar soon, are getting CE credit for those, where they didn't do that before until we got them connected with you all.
Yes.
And that's worked out really well. So,
well, if we increase the professionalism, it only benefits the consumers.
I agree with you there. We're out of time. We got to go. Colin, nice to visit with you. Nice to visit, Patrick. Nice to visit with you as well. And Paul, good luck to you in your role. And Tina, same to you as well. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show this weekend here on KMED. Pete Belcastro. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next Saturday right here on AM 1440 and FM 106.7. Well, you have a great week, everybody, and God bless.
Thank you for listening to the original Real Estate Show with Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys. For advice, guidance, or counsel on any of our topics, or to watch a replay of today's show, visit our website at realestateshoworegon.com. This show is sponsored by RE/MAX, Ideal Brokers of Southern Oregon, Ticor Title, All Cities Property Management, and the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. We'll continue our weekly quest to enhance the value of your property and to make you a smart real estate consumer when we gather every Saturday and Sunday on KMED for the one and only original Real Estate Show.